Good morning, everyone. This is Dr. Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest. Today, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know about how to figure out what cards, what abilities, what stats affect what when you're looking at the abilities your characters are using. I'm looking at you, Jamming Thrust. This video is going to be a little dense, so we're going to start from the very beginning, everybody. So let's go ahead and pull up the slide here, and we're going to go ahead and go over abilities like Hazard Slash, Hazard Break, Jamming Thrust. The goal of this video is that whenever you are looking at what type of damage your character does, or you want to increase the capability of your character, you're able to read these ability slides and know exactly what you need to put on your character to make them stronger. First, we'll go over some basic icons here. This ability icon right here, the red slash marker, is basically an icon that indicates that an ability is an attack, right? So we have multiple abilities, we have support abilities, we have counter abilities, and we have attack abilities. Buffs are also considered attack abilities, so you will see this icon on every ability that is out there. The staff indicates that the attack is a magic attack. So that's going to be an attack that is modified by magic and faith. The sword is going to be an attack that icon that indicates that the attack is based on attack and bravery. And it's really important to pay attention to these because sometimes it's not what you expect, right? Specifically, I look up here at Hazard Slash and Hazard Break. For me, they are literally almost the identical ability, right? They literally have the same modifier, the same attack. The only difference is one word. It would be really easy to just call what Zombie Ryu does Hazard Break, but you can't do that because the modifier is different, and that's a little bit of the trap of this system, right? It's very deceptive, right? Now, when we look down here at Jamming Thrust, I said that the staff indicates that the attack is based off magic. That's going to be the primary magic of your character, so that's your magic, that you get from BC cards, your espers, your equipment. That's what's going to modify the damage of the attack. Then you have what type of an attack it is. So you can see that Jamming Thrust right here is a magic attack because it has the magic attack symbol. So that means that this is going to be modified by magic. It's going to be modified by magic attack. And then you also notice that it's green. Well, that also means that it's going to be modified by wind damage. So Jamming Thrust on Howlet is going to be modified by your base magic and faith. It's going to be modified by how much magic attack you have on, and it's going to be modified by your wind as well, or your plus wind. Now, there are multiple types of attack type increases. So you can have slash attack, like you see up here in Hazard Break and Hazard Slash. Both of them are slash attack modified. We have missile attack, pierce attack, strike attack, and we also have neutral for abilities that are very similar to like drain attacks, or drain force is probably the most commonly known. And it's important to note that just because this is a slash attack does not mean that it's going to be modified by magic, right? This is an important connection to make because there's a lot of these similarities where if you're like, oh, it's a sword, so it's automatically going to be, it's slash attack, so it's automatically going to be a physical attack. Well, then you run into Hazard Slash up here, and you're like, oh, it's slash attack, no problem, it's going to be physical, but it's actually not. It's actually magic attack modified. So it's really important that you understand what these symbols are in terms of understanding how to get the most damage out of the abilities that your characters are using. There is a one-off here as well, and there is actually a hybrid icon. Just think about this for 1 second and throw it out of your mind. It's literally for Gilgamesh and for like one of his abilities, and it's going to be too complicated for what I want to talk about in this video. If you're one of those Gilgamesh users who wants to know more about this ability and, maybe you use him and you want to know more about hybrid damage, reach out to your Discord or reach out to me personally. It's just not, it's literally, it like breaks every rule. So it's literally kind of its own thing. Let's go ahead and go over this just to make sure all of you guys have a basic understanding of how this works. This icon right here, which is actually taken from in-game, is going to be an attack that is based off of magic, and it's going to be affected by plus wind and plus magic attack. Now, there are some exceptions to this stuff that you might not realize, right? So you see an attack like this wind magic attack, and you see Ayaka, right? And you're going to assume this came from a wind unit. Ayaka is a wind unit. And so you would think, okay, she's casting Holy, it's wind element. It's actually not. It's actually light element. And I can't think of the amount of times I've tried to modify Ayaka when I was just beginning for wind plus wind, when I realized that her only offensive magic spell is Holy and is light element. So Holy is actually an attack that is based off of magic and is affected by plus light and plus magic attack. This is going to be even more important when Sakura from JP comes out, because Sakura has attacks that are modified by both lightning and light. So being able to distinguish which abilities are modified by what is going to be very important. Medina casting Flare is also a bit of an exception, because Flare is modified by magic and magic attack, but you'll notice it's elemental-less, and that's because it's elementally neutral. So you don't have, you know, you would think that it's Flare, right? So you'd be like, oh, plus fire, it's gonna work. It's not gonna work, guys. Flare is not a fire-based attack. An important note here as well, because Flare doesn't have an element associated with it, it is not going to be able to chain either. And magic normally doesn't chain, but you can chain elements together, right? So like if I chained Ice Slash into Medina's Blizzaga, it would give me an element chain. But Flare cannot chain because it is elemental-less. So it's only going to be modified by magic and by plus magic attack. Blizzaga here for Medina is literally what most people would expect, right? An attack that is based off of magic and is affected by ice and plus magic attack. There are multiple weapons in the game that do affect elemental attack that are very important for your characters. So these are not all of them, but they're some of the more prevalent ones. We have Ice Lance for ice attack plus 30. We have Flame Blade for fire attack plus 15 from Lilith. It's her TMR. We have Ice Brand, which gives ice attack plus 30, which is a sword. Lazalia Sword, which is going to give slash attack 8, ice attack 8. Vermilion Sword, which is Adelard's TMR, giving magic attack 15. Coral Sword, which is, woohoo, going to give you lightning attack 30 slash attack 15. There's, of course, other weapons like Curry's TMR and Purple Lightning that give ice attack up as well. So just keep in mind, if you're seeing that on a weapon and you are having a unit that's like an ice element or a lightning element, it's going to be really important that you get that plus ice or that plus lightning onto that character. The one exception would be probably the fire attack at 15, just because you see how the ice attack is 30 here and the lightning attack is 30. That's in addition to that 15 slash attack. So the Flame Blade is actually pretty weak in comparison to, say, the Ice Lance or the Coral Sword. That being said, though, it still has its uses, right? Primarily going to be put on Lilith to modify the fire-based shooting attacks, because there's no plus shooting ability for, or plus missile ability for swords on sword users. So let's walk through this a little bit, because there's a lot of people who might think this is easier than it sounds, and even me and very experienced players struggle with this. I literally have redone this video 3 times because I've had different conversations with Merlo and other people as we were talking about the damage that was being done, and no doubt people are going to be in the comments section saying that, you know, oh, I think you might be wrong with this. Absolutely right, we might be, because let me tell you, we've gone over these numbers 3 different times, and it's kind of a mess, but it kind of paints a good picture, and it really shows the process of like the depth of figuring out what weapons, what equipment, what VC cards, what espers, what base stats your character has is really intense when you're really looking at characters and abilities like Jamming Thrust, or even when you get in looking at like Spellblade characters and all of that. So I'm just going to talk about kind of the experience I had, what I looked at, what I did in regards to Jamming Thrust, because Jamming Thrust is an ability that everybody, myself included, have been like, oh, it's slash modifier, or oh, it's not modified by magic. Like, everybody has done that, right? Because the idea of magic attack and magic are so confusing that they're kind of interchanged, and depending on where you're from, maybe someone's like, oh yeah, you got the plus magic on that, right? We are a global community, guys, so just be aware of the confusion that is out there. So my primary interest was with Howlet's jamming thrust, right? And of course we have Lohengrin that just came out, which has very high magic and slash attack plus 15. So of course I'm going to want to use that because a lot of Howlet's other attacks in his primary kit are slash attack based. But in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, I'm doing a jamming thrust video, so I should probably look at Vermilion Sword as well. Vermilion Sword is Adelard's TMR, which gives plus 15 magic attack. And then I decided to look at Sleep Blade as well. Now, most of the time, you would expect that the Vermilion Sword would out-damage all of these, because Howlet has such a high magic when he has all of his VCs and Espers on. He is the highest magic unit in the game, that you would think that the plus 15 magic attack would immediately out-damage everything. However, there are other stats to this equation that you might not have thought about. And that would be Howlet's passives, his support abilities, his natural wind attack up, the fact that we have the Tetrasylphid card with wind attack up on him. And when we put in all the numbers, we actually found that Lohengrin was actually doing more damage than the Vermilion Sword because of the amount of wind attack modification damage that was in the equation. And I don't know. Oh, it looks like Leo Stormrider. I'm not restarting my video now, but if you're out there, thank you for following. But it actually seems like there's something else going on in terms of how the damage is calculated and added out. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a problem with the damage calculator. I don't know if I'm just stupid, but it seemed like when we were going through it that the Lohengrin actually outdamaged the Vermilion Sword because of the plus wind attack that was actually added into the equation, and because of how high base magic Howlet had, is my understanding. I don't know how that works. I couldn't math it out. And that is why we have a calculator. We also plugged in Sleep Blade to kind of show you a difference of what magic can do and magic attack. So we used to never have Lohengrin, right? But we did have Vermilion Sword, we did have Sleep Blade. And you can see by plugging these in that Vermilion Sword actually did more damage on average, which is what you would expect, right? Because the Sleep Blade has plus magic, it doesn't have plus magic attack. So even though it had more magic, it wasn't going to deal as much damage. That's what you would expect. But with Howlet in particular, because of the wind attack, Lohengrin is actually going to be a better weapon to have on him. Fun fact, guys. This is why it's really important to use the damage calculator and to figure out what's going to be best for your character. Because no matter what you think or what the trend might follow and, go through, you're probably going to be surprised, and it's always best just to double check with people that are much smarter than yourself. So that's going to be my plug for the damage calculator. There's kind of two tools that I'm going to throw in the description down below. One of them is going to be Fall of Green's damage calculator, which I would encourage everyone to check out and to math up and get super nerdy on. MACHSHO also has a quick reference guide, which I'm going to throw the Reddit thread in here as well. You can definitely check out his reference guide. It definitely is one of the easier tools to reference, even though I know, like, that's easy. But it's definitely one of the easier tools. If I were you, if you're just starting out, it might be best not to look at these resources, and it might just be best to test yourself, right? It might be best just to take your Howlet and to go out and do a jamming thrust, make the changes that you're going to make, and then go and do it again, right? That's completely allowed as well, and I know players who go out and do that. So the biggest takeaway and the biggest thing I would want you guys to know is make sure you look at your abilities, make sure you understand the meaning behind what those abilities mean. If you have questions, consult a damage calculator. Work out the math. I would also really suggest going to War the Vision Calc's builder tool, because you can calculate kind of your character's base stats to plug into the builder. And shout out to Bismarck for figuring all that out, because that's another really good way of getting your base stats to plug into the calculator to figure out what the best way and the best equipment and the best amount of damage is that you can do. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. If you are planning on buying Visior, make sure you go to my affiliate link dig.gs/coins or dig.gs/offer. And as always, make sure that you guys come by our Discord at dig.gs/discord. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you so much.